We're now going to talk about the saddling and unsaddling. What we're going to start with, because he's already saddled for this segment, is we're going to unsaddle him. But that's typically where the crisis begins, is we don't unsaddle properly. So when we go to saddle, things aren't ready in the first place. So this is actually the proper order to be teaching you guys. So first thing we're going to do, fold your stirrup up. We all know that part, right? And we're going to get ready here. So I'm going to take off my back cinch. I'm going to loosen the front cinch. And this is where the crisis starts to happen for most folks. So if you have a breast collar, obviously you got to take that off. But right about here is where the crisis begins. What people tend to do is they just take this latigo. If they're lucky, they might do that. Okay? If they're super intermediate there, they might just give it one pull there. All right? But what I like to do is this. I like to have it ready for when I'm getting ready for my next saddling. So a lot of times this saddle will go from one horse to the next. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my latigo and I'm going to reach up from behind. So I've got about a foot of it, and I'm just going to pull part of that through like so. So I'm going to have 4 layers here, and I'm going to take the tail, which is still behind. I'm just going to come around. I'm going to lock it in like so, and just kind of hook it in there with a little bit of a loop. Now you can tie whatever knot you want. That's normally the one I like to tie. And then when I get up here, what I can do, and this is the reason I do this, I can just untie that loop, and from right here, this is all ready to come out of here. Because what I like to be able to do is I reach down for my cinch. I'm just going to take the tail, I'm going to drop it through, and watch here. As I just pull all that through, it's ready to go. So then I can just go ahead and start saddling my horse up. Just run down here and finish that through. So that's why I do that. I want to talk about the cinches here next. I'm going to fold this up. I'm going to come around here and tie that up. Now, just so you guys can see, I'm going to reposition them here, just so you guys can kind of see. Now, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to rub on them. Now, this is the other crisis that we run into. People tend to just not pay attention here, and they just throw these cinches over like that. They hang how they're going to hang, and then things get into trouble. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick them up here, and I'm going to put my back cinch to my front, and there's a buckle there on a lot of them. I'm going to take my back cinch over my front cinch right there on the little tooth, and I'm going to then take this whole buckle set, and I'm going to come up here to my keeper. Now, not all saddles have a keeper. A lot of them do, though. Sometimes they're back here. There's different places for them. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to put that into the keeper, and we're good to go. Now, it's tied up on the other side. It's in the keeper here. So then what I can do is ready to saddle is I just drop them down, and I walk over, start cinching my horse. So that's kind of how I like to do it, and that's why these things are here. Maybe you're just switching horses or whatever, but if you pull this off and this is hanging, now you're dragging it, running into your knee, and everything's just kind of awkward. So that's why I like to do it that way, particularly if I'm starting colts and stuff. If you've got these older horses or whatever, probably not that big of a deal. Now, the other thing I like to do here is I like to keep my lead rope over my arm, because what I'm going to do here is I'm going to kind of position my horse for the saddling. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to kind of show you how we saddle. So I have a lead rope over my arm. I have the saddle with the skirt towards me. Okay, I should be able to hold it with one arm with my hand right here on the cantle. My right hand could then hang here. Now, I like to saddle from the left, just so my horse is getting exposure on both sides. You don't have to, but I like to do things on both sides with my horses. So here, I'm going to just put that pad on, so if I'm all balanced, I can just whip that pad on. I'm ready here. If I've got a young horse, this isn't a colt starting series. We go over this in more detail with the colt starting. But just in general, you can let them sniff it. I'm going to stand up here by the shoulder, and a lot of people say, well, Steve, I need a lightweight saddle. I'm like, I get it, but if you just did 3 push-ups a week and you learn to use a little bit of momentum, you could probably have a slightly heavier saddle and be okay. But what people tend to do is they're like, my saddle's so heavy. It's because they're trying to do this, and they're coming up, and they're just these things are heavy if you saddle like that, okay? If you saddle like I'm going to show you, you can get away with a little bit heavier saddle. That's probably a higher quality, okay? safer to ride in, provides better balance, all the things, if you do this right. So I'm going to hold it here. I'm going to use a little bit of momentum. So I'm going to act like I'm going to put it on, but I can swing it back. I'm going to use the momentum here from here. I'm going to swing it and set it on there. Now, yes, he's short. Yes, I have a little bit of strength, whatever. But if you practice this, it's a lot lighter and a lot easier than just grunting and pushing the saddle up there. Now from here, I can kind of pick up the front of this blanket, make sure everything's square. I'm going to drop these cinches. I'm already over here on this side, so I can check some things out, see if everything's good to go. I can check my blanket, check my cinches. I'm going to go ahead and move them just so that you guys can see. But if you were on the wash bay or wherever you're saddling, you could just step to the other side. Now here, this blanket's just a little bit off there, so I can fix it. We checked it on the other side. Everything's good to go. So I'm going to fold my stirrup up. I got my lead rope over my arm still. I can untie this. I'm going to reach down, grab my cinch. I'm going to take the tail of my ladder, go through there, pull all the way through, and then I can start cinching my horse up. Now, again, this isn't cold starting or anything, but you'll just kind of ease this up into the horse a little bit. What people tend to do, though, is they do get cinchy issues. I see people all the time getting cinchy issues. I like to saddle my horse in pieces and cinch him in pieces, meaning like I'm going to cinch him up just enough for that to stay on, but this is plenty loose. I can stick my whole hand in here, right? That's probably my first cinching. You don't want your saddle falling off or anything, but you don't want it like riding tight. Like people are like, oh, my horse blows out and all this. And like, I can't even remember the last time I had a horse that blew out because there's no reason for him to blow out. When I cinch him, he's loose, so he's not trying to work against me. So now I'm going to come here. I'm going to cinch up the back cinch. Again, you could do this in pieces or whatever. This saddle just barely is big enough for him, so I'll just run it up there. But this is, snug but not tight. And then I could pull this down. I'll do some groundwork with them, all right? And then there's going to be, I'll move this so you can see, but there's going to be more room to cinch here. So there's another hole, maybe 2 holes left. And then you could go ahead and ride them after you've warmed them up. But if there's not another hole left, or 2 probably, from your initial cinching, depending on how spaced your holes are, you're probably over cinching these horses, and you want to kind of watch out because it's like the bridling and the catching and the haltering and all these things. There's going to be little habits that start creeping in there, and if you've kind of set your horse up for failure in the beginning, then you're going to have to start dealing with some other things in the end, and that sometimes is unfortunate for us. So hopefully some of those tips were helpful, and we'll move on to the next thing.